Thank you. Thanks, Steve. That's very nice. My name is Ross Monson. I'm a recovered alcoholic. And my God-given sobriety date is October 5th, 1989. And I am eternally grateful, and so is anybody else that would have anything to do with me. But I like to say thanks to a loving God that I did not believe in and was pretty militant about my faith in that. God, thanks to a loving God, the 12 Steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, strong sponsorship, and the Fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous, God removed from me that obsession to drink or use any other outside substances on October 5th, 1989. So let's see. Just to qualify briefly, don't mind those people in the background. We're out at the state capitol and they're protesting. I'm a sense and ease and comfort kind of guy. I just that the big book talks about it on the doctor's opinion, that sense and ease and comfort that I get it once. That wow. And I didn't know what I didn't know. I didn't know what I didn't know about that when I started drinking and using, and I didn't know what I didn't know when I came to Alcoholics Anonymous either. I didn't understand the twofold nature of the disease, coupled with the third aspect, spiritual malady. Some people call it twofold, some people call it threefold. I talked to somebody about it. My other friend Josh was saying, yeah, potatoes. I think if you leave out the spiritual malady aspect of the disease concept, then you're missing a link. But it's my understanding is it's a mental obsession, that idea that overpowers all other ideas, coupled with a physical craving. That when I start drinking, my body doesn't process it sufficiently, and I actually get a physical craving for more when I get ahead of myself. I'm a blackout drinker pretty much from the get-go. I'm always pretty much overshot. And now that I understand the disease concept, I understand why I overshot, because my body kept craving more and more and more and more. I didn't realize I didn't feel like I fit in. I just didn't realize, I just thought that's who I was, kind of. And I hear a lot of different people describe that never, kind of felt like a square peg in a round hole or whatever. All I know is that when I started drinking and using, boom, just immediately, wow. Charlie of Joe and Charlie, we talk about, he's at a dance, high school dance, and short little guy, he's like 5'1", 5'2". And somebody hands him some moonshine in a jar. And as soon as he drinks, takes a sip, all of a sudden he feels like 6 feet tall, best dancer on the floor, all that stuff. And Charlie says, and I haven't even swallowed it yet. He's just put it in his mouth. And just that change, that transformation that all of a sudden now I feel like I fit in, So briefly, so we're going to talk about the first step. When I came in to Alcoholics Anonymous, I understood where it says, I'm powerless over alcohol. My life is unmanageable. I'm almost 35. I've moved back home to my parents' house. My dad's come to AA. My mother's been in NA and AA for several years. I like to say their 12 step was my first step. But so I moved back home. My life's unmanageable. All right. I'm unemployable. My dad's all, how long are you gonna be here? I said, I don't know, 6 months. 3 years later, um, so a lot of us come into Alcoholics Anonymous and powerless over alcohol, life's unmanageable. But my real understanding today is that is not really, because we come to Alcoholics Anonymous. There's people that still married, still have a car, have a job, and so the as I understand it, the unmanageability is, as an example, I wake up Sunday morning after several days of partying, whatever, and I wake up Sunday morning completely just exhausted, dehydrated, and I'm just not going to drink today. Okay, just not going to drink today. It's maybe 8:30 in the morning, and I'm just not going to drink today. I made a decision, and somewhere, I don't know, 10:30, 11 o'clock, maybe somebody suggests to me, because I'm telling them I have a headache, or somewhere the idea comes up and somebody says, oh, you should try hair of the dog. And you guys, I don't know if you're familiar with hair of the dog. It's, just to kind of get even, just have a drink, the hair on the dog, just to, just kind of, just get even. And I'm not even negotiating with myself anymore, arguing like, well, wait a second, you weren't going to drink today. You weren't going to, at 8 o'clock, you said you weren't going to drink again. You weren't going to drink today. So my understanding of the first step is I'm powerless over alcohol and my life's unmanageable. And the life that's unmanageable is I can't manage a decision to stay stopped. Okay. It's just one day. Come on, guys. What happened to 2 hours ago when you said you weren't going to drink at all? That's the unmanageability. Can I manage a decision to not drink? And to tell you the truth, if you can do that, then our hats are off to you, and you don't even really probably need to be here. Okay, So got a little ahead of myself. What happened was, very quickly when I was in high school, unmanageability. I was expelled or suspended from high school. First day of the second semester, sophomore year, for sales of what's now legal. You can go to a dispensary and get it. The school wanted to make an example and to expel me. My parents got a lawyer, or said they'd get a lawyer, so they let me come back into school, and I just went to smaller items and sales. That was one of the first things. The other one is I got together with this girl, Robin, and she introduced me to this guy, Bob, and him and I became running partners. We would take other outside issues on pretty much a regular basis. Sorry, that's not my phone. It's my wife's office phone. Excuse me. So I'm running with this guy for a couple of years. And Columbus Day, 1970, we went out along the Sonoma coast. There's a place called Goat Rock, Shell Beach. We spent the night Friday over on this bluff when we watched the sunset. And, I said to my friend, man, those Mexicans, the Hawaiians, we looked over the cliffs. It was 75 feet or so, and you couldn't clear the rocks. And I was saying how those guys are nuts, are crazy. The people that dive, Hawaiians and Mexicans, is, and I said to my friend, you can't, yeah. You couldn't pay me enough. So we spent the night there, and the next morning we got up, the fog hadn't lifted. So we went back down to that bluff, and I was on the receiving end of an attempted murder. My supposedly best friend shoved me off a 75-foot cliff. I flew 50 feet through the air. That's what the sheriffs say. Bounced about 25 on jagged rocks. We had taken some lysergic acid dithiamide. which is LSD. And it took them 4 hours to get me out off from the bottom of the cliff. I got a helicopter ride out of the deal. And I like to tell people it was a bummer. It was a really bad trip. I woke up with what one eye I had left, and I'm thinking this has got to be a dream. I'm still in my sleeping bags. I haven't woken up yet. And I look up and I'm thinking, man, that looks like where I was sitting last night. And I tell that story. My friend left me for dead, so he told a different story. I tell that story because when I come into Alcoholics Anonymous, I turned 17 in the hospital. I come into Alcoholics Anonymous a whole lifetime later, 17 years later. I spent another 17 years trying to get that, excuse me, sense and ease and comfort that I get at once from drinking, at once, immediately. So I come into Alcoholics Anonymous and I don't know what I don't know. And I hear some very nice, well-intentioned people talking about their circumstances. Excuse me. Talking about their spouse or their employer or whatever their circumstances are. And I don't know anything about Alcoholics Anonymous. So then I realized, oh, it's circumstances. Yeah, if you'd been pushed off a 75-foot cliff by your best friend who marries your girlfriend 8 months later and then tries to kill her a few times, you'd be an alcoholic like me too. Excuse me. And it's not true. It's a lie. Does it exacerbate my condition? Absolutely. So I come into Alcoholics Anonymous. I don't know what I don't know. And until I'm approached by those in whom the problem had been solved, on page 25, there was nothing left for me to do but to pick up the simple set of spiritual tools laid at my feet. I get to know much of heaven and got rocketed into a fourth dimension of existence I didn't even know existed. So, step one, as I understand it, I just wanted to qualify a little bit. So that point being, excuse me, I got something stuck in my throat. I come into Alcoholics Anonymous. I don't know what I don't know. And I hear people talking about their circumstances. So I figure my condition is circumstantial. So, and that's not true. It exacerbated my condition. I drank much harder, not wanting to think about the two hands firmly placed under my shoulder blades that shoved me out, and somebody tried to kill me. So, sorry, something's stuck in my throat there. So what happens is someone takes me through the doctor's opinion and explains to me the nature of my disease, the mental obsession, an idea that overpowers all other ideas. When I start thinking about drinking, I'm drinking, okay? And if the best you have for me is call me before you drink, it's not going to happen, okay? Unless you're buying, I'm not calling, okay? That's just straight up where it's at. My mind's not thinking about I should call someone. It's thinking I'm drinking. So we get to page 30 in the mental obsession. It says that most of us have been unwilling to admit we are real alcoholics. No person likes to think he is bodily and mentally different from his fellows. Twofold nature of my disease, body and mind. Therefore, it's not surprising that our drinking careers had been characterized by countless vain attempts to prove that we could drink like other people. Who knew it was a career? I didn't know it was a career. The fallacy there is it's characterized by countless vain attempts to prove I could drink like other people. Have you ever seen how other people drink? That's alcohol abuse. You know, they say things like, oh, I'm starting to feel it. Or, oh, I've had enough. Oh my God, they don't even know how to drink. The idea that somehow and someday I will learn, I will control and enjoy my drinking is the great obsession of every abnormal drinker. So for me to enjoy my drinking, don't tell me how much to drink, okay? The great obsession, it says. So that's just back to that thinking mind, this obsession that someday I'm going to learn how to control and enjoy my drinking. For me to enjoy my drinking, there is no control, okay? All bets are off. And that's because of that physical craving that develops when I drink. And I actually don't. If you get to the doctor's opinion, after that sense of ease and comfort, we want to drink like other people that we see drinking with impunity. The deal is I want to drink the way I drink, and not suffer the consequences that I see normal drinkers not suffer, arguing with their spouses, getting kicked out of restaurants or bars, getting beat up. I just want to be able to drink the way I drink and not suffer any kind of consequences. So so now we get into the persistence of this illusion is astonishing. Many pursue it into the gates of insanity or death. So we're going to talk about an illusion. That's like watching a magician or somebody, an illusionist. My mind is seeing an illusion. So we learned that we had to fully concede to our innermost selves that we were alcoholics. This is the first step in recovery. One moment. I swallowed like a sesame seed or something, and it's right there in my throat. So what happens though is we learned that we had to fully concede to our innermost selves that we were alcoholics. This is the first step. The delusion that we are like other people or presently maybe has to be smashed. Excuse me. The delusion is in my mind. And the illusion is out there. It's like a magician, like I said. The delusion is my mind deluding me and saying, okay, well, I've got this. Now, what I tell people that I work with is they will say to me, oh yeah, Ross, I fully concede. Can we do step 2 now? No, what I tell people to do is to go home and think about it. Because if you're like me, you're going to tell me what you think I want to hear. You're going to tell me what you think I want to hear. Yeah, I fully concede, Russ. Can we do step 2? No, you go home and you think about where your drinking career has gotten you. You fully concede to your innermost self that you're done, that you can't drink successfully ever again, ever. So, and then it says we are alcoholics are men and women who have lost the ability to control our drinking, and we know that no real alcoholic ever regains control. And we're in the, it says further down, we are convinced to a man that the alcoholic of our type are in the grip of a progressive illness. So the disease is doing push-ups while we stay sober. So illusions outside, delusions in my mind, fully concede your innermost self. When you understand through doing the doctor's opinion, reading it, that the main problem is in the mind. So I understand self can't overcome self. My thinking mind does not have the ability to overcome my thinking mind. So now that I know that I have this mental obsession, the most insane thing I will do stone cold sober. If you have not drank in 72 hours, you can't get drunk on the phenomenon of craving. It's over. It's done. So the most insane thing I will do is my mind will lie to me or tell me something. I don't even believe other people may have a different, it talks about the guy in the bar. All of a sudden you wake up and you're pounding on the bar. 6 months sober, all of a sudden you're in a bar drinking. What I truly believe for me is my body and my alcoholism remembers that sense and ease and comfort that I get at once from drinking. And so there's no before thought or my mind just remembers. people are just making me thirsty, and it will just remember, and I'll end up drinking if I'm not spiritually sound and uh, in a recovered state. And I don't know if that's what happens with other people, or if they just harbor resentments, they get spiritually discontent. But that's my understanding. So if we go to step 2, which you would hopefully that covers it for you. We go to step 2, and we would go to We Agnostics, page 44. First of all, there's a 2-part, some people call it 2 questions. It's a 2-part question to qualify the alcoholic, okay? And we let them qualify themselves. So what I will do is, when I approach people and talk to people, I will have them, I'll go to 44 and I'll have them read that first paragraph. And you can forego the first 2 lines where it says, in the preceding chapter, we have learned something of alcoholism. We hope that we've made clear the distinction between the alcoholic and the non-alcoholic. And then I have them read it themselves, and I stop them at or. So if, when you honestly want to, you find you cannot quit entirely, stop. And I said, so have you ever been able to stay stopped? Most of the time, they're new anyway. So no, they've never been able to stay stopped entirely. And that doesn't mean, well, yeah, 3 years while I was in jail. Well, then why are you new now? You didn't stop entirely, okay? Or, and then it says, or when drinking, you have little control of the amount you take, or you're probably an alcoholic. And often the people will laugh because they're not thinking about controlling it. They go into, so, it's like you go into a bar, or let's say you call your spouse or loved one and say, hey, I'm on my way home from work. I'm just stopping at the bar with a couple coworkers. I should be home by 7. And somewhere your friends have finally have left. It's 10 o'clock. You're playing pool with some newfound friends, and I've lost all control of the amount I take. So we let them read that, and so, like I said, often they will laugh and say, "No, I'm not thinking about control." And then it says, if that be the case, you may be suffering from an illness which only a spiritual experience will conquer. Boom, boom. So we let them diagnose themselves, and then we show them the promise that's right there, that we have a solution that will get you out, that will conquer. So, and then it talks about being an atheist or an agnostic. Personally, like I said, I came in, I'm the guy that the hair on the back of your neck bristle, at the mention of God. I thought I was a card carrying atheist, and I was approached by those who, if you wanted to start a fight with me when I was new, which was easy to start, just come up to me and talk to me about God. Come on, come to me. Come on, approach me. And I was militant. I was wrong. I was delusional, and I was wrong. I had some problems where, briefly, before I was born, my mother was drinking a fifth of scotch and strong Benzedrine, and she was going to church, and she started carrying my 3.5 years old brother, 3.5 years older than me. I wasn't born yet, and she was walking around the neighborhood knocking on doors, and people would answer the door, and she'd be like, he's back, Christ is here, Christ is here. She's holding them in. My brother's a nice guy. He's Christ, he's not. So they threw my mom in Happy Acres, I don't know where, but gave her shock treatment, and my opinion, come on, man, my alcoholism wants to kill me, will settle for drunk. I come into Alcoholics Anonymous, you tell me it's a spiritual program, I see you praying and passing the basket. Looks like Sunday to me, man. Looks like church to me. My alcoholism wants me to leave and wants me to have contempt prior to investigation. So people would approach me, and Don't talk to me about God. God made my mother insane. God put my mother in mental institutions. So I don't want to talk about God. I don't want to hear the word God. And so when I was finally approached by those in whom the problem had been solved, and they got me into a kind of calmer state, they would ask me, they would say, do you ever think that the Benzedrine and the fifth of Scotch your mother was doing to calm herself down may have had an effect on her perception of what she heard in church? Oh, you mean drugs and alcohol might have affected her mental state? Oh, wow. No, I hadn't thought about that. Wow. And then I was approached and they said, well, what's an atheist? And I don't know what your guys' answer is, but I think I told them it's a person that doesn't believe in God. There is no God. And they said, so you acknowledge God, but you just don't believe in him. And I said, no, there's no God. And then at some point they said to me, so millions of people for thousands of years have believed in something. They're all wrong, but you're right. We get to 62 when we look at the root of our troubles, that I'm a selfish, self-centered, self-seeking person. It helped me to get to become an agnostic and move forward to believing in God. Is that for me to think, how arrogant is that? For me to think that everybody else is wrong. All those people that have believed in something for thousands of years are wrong, and I'm right. So I hope that explains that. So I was hostile toward that, and I was wrong. I was delusional. I was wrong. So what happens is then we get to page 45, and it says, just above lack of power, it says, but the needed power wasn't there. In fact, we could will these things all we might, but the needed power wasn't there. Our human resources, as marshaled by the will, were not sufficient. They failed utterly. So it says, lack of power, that was our dilemma. Step one, we had to find a power by which we could live, and it had to be a power greater than ourselves. Step two, but obviously where and how will we define this power? Well, that's exactly what this book is about. Its main object is to enable you to find a power greater than yourself, which will solve your problem. Wow. So we go back to where they told us this was a textbook. It reads like a novel or something. It's not like a textbook I've normally seen. So there's no half Nelsons, no full Nelsons. No one's forcing you to access that power. What this book from 45 on, my understanding is its main object is to enable me to find a power which will solve my problem. And as far as I'm concerned, I know there's a lot of other stuff in the book, but from 45 on, we're not that it's not even about drinking anymore. It's not about alcoholism. It's about how do I get to that power? How do I access that power which will enable me and to solve my problems? We get to, now we get to, I think that's step two, as far as I can see. But we get to page 62, and then we find in 62 what our real problem is. And I'm just going to go there real quick, because that it says selfishness and self-centeredness, that we think is the root of our troubles. And I like to do actually first person, driven by 100 forms of fear, self-delusion, self-seeking, and self-pity. I step on the toes of my fellows and they retaliate. Sometimes they hurt me seemingly without provocation, but invariably I find that at some point in the past, I made decisions based on self, which later placed me in a position to be hurt. I'm just standing on this cliff with my best friend. I've never been a victim. I was a volunteer. I talked about, those guys that jump. That dive. They're crazy. I mean, never been a victim, okay? And maybe you guys think you are, but it's never been. So then it tells us, so our troubles we think are basically of our own making. They arise out of ourselves. And the alcoholic is an extreme example of self-will run riot, though I usually don't think so. Above everything, we alcoholics must be rid of the selfishness. We must, or it kills us. God makes that possible. Back to step 2, God. And you can call it whatever you want. I don't care. And there often seems no way of entirely getting rid of self without his aid. Back again, self can't overcome self. I don't have the ability to overcome my thinking mind. I have to have God's help. And let's see, and many of us had moral and philosophical convictions galore, but we could not live up to them, even though we would have liked to. Neither could we reduce our self-centeredness much by wishing or trying on our own power. We had to have God's help. And then it goes into the how and the why of it. And then actually at the top of 63, that first paragraph are all third step promises. But so now we're getting past 2. I'm just going to throw this out here because if you were like me, you didn't even want to talk about the G word. I look at, and I don't care what you call it. We don't care what you call your higher power, spirit, whatever you want to call it. I look at the word God. This may be a little abstract for you. I look at it as like numbers in math, zeros in math. When you go 1 to 9 and then 10, you put a 0 behind the 1. 20, you put a 0 behind the 2. So we don't care what you call it. We just want you to find something greater in yourself that makes sense to you. Oh yeah, and then before I close. So what happens is, so here I am, angry and delusional, and then they tell me that I'm an outright mental defective, right? It says we are outright mental defectives, okay? Then they turn around and say, Ross, you get to choose your own conception of God, as long as it makes sense to you. Don't use a doorknob because it'll turn on you, or somebody else said lock you out or whatever. But so wait. Didn't you just say I was an outright mental defective? Yeah, you are, Ross. Yeah, you're an outright mental defective. So you're going to let me, an outright mental defective, choose my own conception of God? Yeah, Ross, we're going to do that. We're going to let you do that. Wow. So the next question would be, how free do you want to be? Well, entirely would be nice. Entirely free of the bondage of self. So, how free do you want to be? I mean, you're an outright mental defective, and we're going to let you choose. Wow. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. So, I think, have I run my time? I think so, right? Pretty close there. Steve? Yeah. What do you think?
You're right on time.
Okay. I mean, we're close, right? And what do we open it for? Questions or?
Yeah, I'll stop the recording so we can open it for discussion.
Sure. Thank you.